Have you ever known a killer in real life? When I was 13, my dad took me on a camping trip where I found human teeth in his tackle box. And when I asked about them, he said they were from the biggest catch of his life. I'd been excited about the trip, thinking maybe Dad was finally trying to bond with me after years of cold distance. He'd always been a survival enthusiast, training me to track animals and navigate by stars since I could walk. But this was our first real expedition, just us in the mountains for a week. When we passed missing person posters at the ranger station, he commented that people should learn to stay out of places they don't belong. The teeth were molars, cleaned and polished like trophies. Dad saw my horror and laughed, claiming they were from a bear, but we just studied human teeth in science class. I knew what these were. That night, I pretended to sleep while he studied maps by firelight, marking certain areas with red X's. I lay frozen in my sleeping bag, suddenly understanding why he'd brought me so far from any trail. On the third day, he announced we were playing a new game. He gave me a 30-minute head start to hide anywhere within a mile radius. If he couldn't find me by sundown, I'd win $100. If he caught me, I'd have to help him with advanced tracking practice. His eyes held an excitement that made my stomach drop. I ran harder than I'd ever run, but he found me within 2 hours, following broken twigs and footprints I didn't know how to avoid leaving. Good effort, he said, gripping my shoulder. But prey always makes mistakes when it's scared. That night, he showed me what advanced tracking meant. He led me to a clearing where someone had clearly camped recently. Abandoned gear was scattered around, including a torn jacket with dark stains. Dad taught me to read the scene. Looks like somehow a snake got into his sleeping bag. Horrible accident, but he was grinning. Tomorrow, you'll help me follow this trail, he said. I'm going to teach you how it feels to be an apex predator. I took a deep breath and said, is that person going to live? And he said, not if you want to eat tomorrow. I tried to sabotage the hunt by leading him in wrong directions, pretending to lose the trail, but he knew tracking better than I did and corrected every misdirection. We found the hiker 5 miles north, exhausted and terrified, limping from an infected wound. When he saw us, he sobbed with relief. Dad comforted him, gave him water, promised we'd get him to safety. Then he looked at me and said, show him the quickest route back. I pointed south, knowing it led to the closest town. Dad smiled and corrected me, pointing north. The hiker thanked us and limped away. That night, Dad woke me at 3 a.m. He smiled and showed me another handful of teeth, still bloody. Coitos had already done most of the work, he said. I barely got to have any fun. Next time, when we returned home, I tried telling Mom, but she just laughed. Dad was a respected surgeon who saved lives, and I was a kid known for making crap up. But even I wouldn't lie about taking a person's life. Dad cornered me and said, if I got any ideas about talking again, I'd be his next missing hiker. He showed me newspaper clippings of missing persons from areas we'd visited. Tragic accidents, he said. But you're too smart for accidents, aren't you? After that, our hunts were monthly, and each one was more horrific than the next. He'd wound someone at their campsite, no matter how desperately I tried to stop him. He made me predict their movements, learn their patterns. If I warned them or led him wrong, he'd make me watch what happened next. I became an expert at reading fear in footprints, panic in broken branches. He was training me to be like him. One hunt specifically was a nightmare because I recognized the target. My old scout leader had decided to hike solo for his 50th birthday. Dad had already visited his camp, left him bleeding and running. As we tracked him, I made my choice. While Dad focused on the trail, I sprinted ahead to warn my scout leader. I found him collapsed by a stream, and I told him everything, begging him to run to the ranger's station and tell them to arrest my father. I returned to Dad, claiming I'd gotten lost, but somehow he knew right away. That's what you get from decades of studying people like they're your prey. He just smiled slowly and said, you know, I have insurance against you. That's when I found out he'd secretly recorded me tracking victims. I have your fingerprints on weapons. Your DNA is everywhere. You want to go to the police? Try it. He said he'd been leaving personal items of mine at every crime scene. I was shocked. He hadn't just expected my betrayal, he'd planned for it. He handed me the knife and said, so are you going to cull your scout leader, or are you going to go to prison? Full story on the channel below.